Are the Minnesota Wild experiencing buyer's remorse? To discuss that and a lot more, here's our insider, Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, just days after the Wild signed Kirill Kaprizov for $17 million a season, the biggest deal in NHL history, Jack Eichel, Kyle Connor, and of course, Connor McDavid, all signed for significantly less. Is Bill Guerin feeling like he may have now overpaid?
Absolutely not would be the quick answer there, Gino. I reached out to Bill Guerin really moments after the Jack Eichel news became official and completed a hat trick of major signings this week that was started with McDavid and then Connor, as you said. Bill Guerin could not have been more emphatic. 17 million is what it took for them to keep their superstar, and he would do it all over again. Each market has different circumstances, as he noted. For them, that's the number that it took to keep them. And the reality is, as he says, giving him 17 million is a way better option than watching him leave the market at the end of the season and being probably unable to replace him. I mean, the July 1st market is already thinning out at the top, Gino, and who you're getting on the trade market to replace Kirill Kaprizov. So no, listen, is it an overpay? In my estimation, yes, probably in yours as well, Gino. But for the Minnesota Wild perspective, it's a market that has a hard time attracting free agents on July 1st. They have absolutely no regret about giving Kaprizov $17 million a year, especially when you consider that there are other core guys like Matt Boldy at $7 million, Joel Eriksson Ek at $5.25 million, Brock Faber at $8.5 million. They've got some pretty decent contracts with their other core guys, but obviously someone else on the team is making a record-setting money starting next year.
Pay what you have to. Listen, I want to follow up on something you mentioned, the top of the market now thinning out. Now that the first big wave of pending UFAs is taken care of, where does the focus shift to now, Pierre?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Artemi Panarin with the New York Rangers. That's one case certainly that's worth monitoring. But I think the three names that I focus on that are really interesting are Adrian Kempe, Alex Tuch, and Martin Necas. And all three of those players kind of slide in next, I think, after the big names we just talked about that sign. And I can tell you that there's no question that I think it has affected the Kempe and Tuch negotiations in particular, as far as I think people involved in those conversations maybe wanting to wait until they saw what Eichel signed for and Kyle Connor signed for, as far as maybe setting the market even more in a concrete way. So let's go to Kempe, LA Kings. There is ongoing dialogue there. There has been, a pretty constant back and forth between JP Barry, the agent, and the LA Kings. What I would tell you is that, I believe William Nylander's contract, $11.5 million a year, has been introduced in that conversation. But I would also predict that now Kyle Connor's $12 million a year will be part of that conversation as well. So I think whenever Kempe gets done, I think we're probably looking at 11 to 12 million a year, somewhere in that ballpark. We'll see if that happens. Alex Tuch, I'm told from a source in the last 24 hours, there continues to be good dialogue there, quote unquote, but nothing imminent. So we'll see where that goes. Back-to-back 36-goal scorer, Gino. I think he ends up a double-digit guy as well, based on where this market is going. So we'll see if the Sabres and his camp, led by Brian Bartlett, can get that done. And finally, with Martin Necas, I think this is a little different situation, only because what I'm being told is that the player here wants the season to start, wants to get comfortable his first full year with the Avalanche after the trade last year. But eventually, I think he will greenlight his agent to dig a little deeper. There have been talks with the Avalanche, but dig a little deeper in those negotiations over the course of the season here at some point. I think he'll sign. I just don't think it's going to be imminently.
I want to get back to Kyle Connor before I let you go. This guy's a star in the league. He averages over 35 goals a season, so the Jets getting him locked up is huge. But it's not just big because of the offense he provides. It's also huge for the message this signing now sends across the league, Pierre.
Yeah, no question. I had a chance to speak with Jets chairman and part owner Mark Chipman earlier today, Gino. And, we talked about the fact that there is this narrative out there, like it or not, about players not wanting to go to Winnipeg or play in Winnipeg. And he was pretty strong in his comments to me and said, listen, that's a false narrative in his opinion. They extended Mark Scheifele. They extended Connor Hellebuck. And back in the day, they extended Blake Wheeler. They extended Brian Little, as he says. So, obviously signing Kyle Connor is an exclamation point of what he feels is actually a trend of the Jets over the years being able to keep their core guys, the guys that have been Winnipeg Jets players. So, yeah, they're not big players on July 1st normally, but their focus is more in keeping the guys that they draft and develop. So, Mark Chipman hoping that people stop throwing that narrative out there that no one wants to play in Winnipeg.
I get that. That's the early edition of Insider Trading. The full version of IT with Pierre, Dregs, and CJ is coming up on the early edition of SportsCenter.